So how does someone come up with the VTuber concept, or more or less how did I come up with my VTuber concept? In this video I'll be covering the steps I took in order to idealize and finalize my concept. Now keep in mind this is not a direct you must do this is just simply how I went about it, and I'll show you some tools to use along the way, but also keep in mind this is in no particular order. Hello, my name is CallSignVestige, or call me Vest for short, and I'm a revenant VTuber who simply documents their findings and experiences. For example, I'll be sharing the things I took into consideration and the steps I made to turn my thoughts into a reality. Let's start with personality. Everyone's personality is going to be a little bit different, and it's okay to overlap. For example, I would describe myself as somewhat reserved, a little bit silly, vague, not super creative, and maybe a little introspective. Then again, keep your personality traits in mind because ultimately that is what is going to make you, well, you. I get there's a ton of personalities out there to want to be like, but I encourage you to be the best you can be. Inspiration, which in my opinion was a lot easier to think about because I like a ton of things and I can put a ton of things onto a model or character. You can use anything, even basic interest if you're into fashion or finance, maybe you like books or racing. Of course, if there's a character design you like and want to make your own, there really isn't a limit on what inspires you. For example, I did a mix of my interest and things I like, such as apocalyptic themes, anonymity, symbolism, stories, and lore, but these are only a few things that come to mind that inspire me. Design arguably was the hardest part for me, was figuring it out. There are characters that really stand out to me, but obviously copying a character from hair strand to boot buckle isn't the right answer. There are tools and websites you can use to help you, but I think my way was a little unique towards the end of this chapter. Let's talk VROID Studio and VTube Studio. To put it briefly, VROID is a fully rigged and customizable 3D model you can use in order to either start VTubing with a preset or customize your model to the items available. Not to mention, it's completely free and receives regular updates on Steam. Now you might ask, hey, I downloaded this off Steam and the assets are pretty lacking. Or, how can I do tracking in this? For me, I recommend VC Face, and to answer your other question, you can sculpt your own assets out of hair, or there are hundreds of free and paid assets on Etsy or Booth. You can also use VROID for VR chat if that's something you are interested in. However, keep in mind the usage of Blender may be required. On the other hand, you can download the VTube Studio for free on Steam as well, but it will have a watermark. VTube Studio also has a preset and free models you can use, but I will say that there is a cost if you want to try a model similar to a design that you already like, or alternatively, you can purchase a fully customizable model off of a site called VGen, but it may cost significantly more. Now, you can also use Etsy or Booth for this as well. Now, my personal method was that I used a video game. This was kind of a game changer for me because it was already set in a apocalyptic setting and basically had the assets I needed to get a better picture of what I wanted to look like. If you have a game that has a fairly decent character customization, I would recommend you do that. I personally use Code Vein as my medium, and so far it was the answer I needed. This particular game made it easier for my concept. I'll throw some pictures up on screen here so you can see this is where most of the inspiration came from. Obviously, you don't have to use this method. You may ask, well, what if I can draw or know someone who does? This is a great question and brings us into my next thought, which is art and rigging and artists and riggers. This is where things can get a little bit costly and a little bit expensive, but I swear this involves the overall concept. If you're someone who is a little artistic, that's awesome. I encourage that. You have talent for that. I would encourage you to do as many things as you can with your own hands. I am not that talented, nor do I have the patience to learn art specifically. There are a few ways to go about this, and you can find a separate artist and rigger, do the art and rigging yourself, or find an artist who also does rigging. Now keep in mind those are 2D options. If you're opting to use something like VROID, you may just need to find someone who can do those custom assets and or tuning for you. I have tried the 3D options by myself, but I was not happy with my personal final result, so I chose 2D. More specifically, I chose to find an artist who also does rigging. There are plenty of artists like this to choose from, and a select select few websites to use, more specifically VGen, Fiverr, and Booth, and sometimes even X or Twitter. I would check the folks out on those sites, however, read their TOS and do your due diligence. Commercial is a must for folks who want to do monetization as well, and some individuals may cost extra for commercial use, so keep that in mind as well. And on that note, let's talk more in depth about the process of actually making it real. So this is kind of the meat and potatoes of making my concept into something real. Keep in mind the style, price, packages, sales, and reputation. I did thorough research picking an artist, and after endless scrolling, I finally found one that fits my needs. Now the next question is, okay, I picked an artist, how does it work? In my experience, the process is mostly the same for most people. I'm sure there's outliers out there, and you can usually find that answer on the artist page. They typically ask to DM the request with reference photos first before payment. Sometimes they will negotiate with you and what the best option for your price range is. Again, read their TOS and packages as well. After that, they will confirm things with you and send you the invoice for that service. Now, I personally went with the wonderful artist and rigger, Lilith, who in my opinion did a lot of heavy lifting to make this all real. Big shout out to Lilith over on Fiverr who was able to make this all happen. How does this involve the concept? Good question. The way I went about this is that I sent my artist all the concepts I had. This includes rough character descriptions, photos, traits, and anything I had from previous gathering. Okay, great, but we haven't got anything tangible yet. You are correct. Let's talk about good character design. Having a good silhouette is generally a good thing, having a recognizable color palette, and good visuals such as scars or clothing, but keep in mind, make sure something isn't too similar or maybe something too complex. Crazily enough, I asked not to stand out. The character had to have some sense of forgettability, which I know is counterintuitive. It's kind of like a person you see who catches your eye. You might think they're interesting, but you don't talk to them and you kind of forget about them later, which is what I was going for. Some will see my model and say, okay, nothing special, another white-haired heterochromia VTuber, how original. Unrelated, but there are some grade A baddies out there with white hair, and I'm not talking about your grandma unless she's down. I'm just kidding, kinda. Sketching. Anyways, the point I'm trying to make is after some time, the artist will work with you and eventually send you a rough sketch. You can either say, hey, this needs adjustment, or it's absolutely perfect. You can get as creative as you want, but if you get stuck during the sketch phase, you could ask the artist, hey, what's missing, or what do you think would look good, while still being on the same page, which is absolutely something I did, and this was an absolute huge help from them as it allowed me to put together a better vision of what I wanted. Keep in mind, you may have to ask for thicker outlines if you have a ton of accessories, or if something isn't clear to you. If your particular order has expressions, these may be sketched and adjusted as well. Okay, so I have a sketch. What's next? During the color phase of getting your concept done, most of the time you are no longer allowed to change the overall sketch unless it's something small, but as I was saying, during the color phase, the artist will send you a base color format, and it really just is a simple color over the sketch and will become more in-depth later, but at the same time, if there isn't a color you like or something doesn't match, feel free to ask to change it or take some time to think about it. Okay, great, you have color. Now what? Full color. At this point, you are almost done. Keep in mind, the further you get into getting your concept done, it's possible that you may no longer make any more changes. Full color is simply more in-depth color and making certain things stand out. For example, maybe there is some miscommunication somewhere for a feature that was previously mentioned and is now a different color. Feel free to mention it, and please be nice and patient to the person you are working with. Things like this just happen, just be understanding. For example, like here, how my hair went from brown to white. If you have expressions, make sure to double check those too. So now you have something tangible and you're happy with what's next. Finalization and rigging. If you are happy with the previous step, this is the final piece of making it real. Rigging, to put it simply, rigging is making the art move and make sure tracking parameters are in working order. It's significantly more complicated than that, but I am inexperienced in the matter, so I won't speak on it too much. But as I was saying, the rigging stage is, for the most part, out of your your hands, and the person rigging your model will get back to you soon, and upon getting a message back, you will likely get a test video. This test includes things like motion tracking, blinking, mouth movements, expressions, and more. All of this is for you to review before finally the artist submits it to you and things are finalized. Now, you might ask, what about everything else? Glad you asked, because some artists will give you a package deal, either for a free simple background, emotes, or a profile picture, but at this point you can also get artworks done with other artists as well. Me personally, I like doing repeat business with those who are great to work with and do absolutely amazing work. Hopefully sharing my experience has helped you, and I'm sure I forgot something or got a little off track. Thank you to those who tuned in and those who tuned in for 10 seconds and left, and I will see you guys next time.